Hello, everyone, and welcome. Apologies in advance for our technical difficulties with Bright Talk. We don't know what you're experiencing. Please do let us know. But for us, it's been a bit of a wild couple of minutes. But I'm glad we're able to get through it. And I would like to welcome you to our webinar today, which is entitled Use Custom Bots to Improve Key Customer Journeys in Retail Banking. My name is Sean Sullinger. I'm the Senior Partner Marketing Manager for Automation Anywhere here in the UK. And I'm delighted to be joined today by our main speakers, John Master and Deepti Shug from Avenir Digital, and Tim Barros from Automation Anywhere. Before we get started, I'd like to take a minute to orient you to a few key features of the BrightSock system, which you may again be experiencing difficulties with. First, we'll be posting a number of polls throughout the call. These will pop up on screen at various points, and you're able to answer them. Please do, as it will direct our conversation. Second, we do encourage you to ask questions throughout the webinar. You have a small questions icon on your control panel, which should allow you to ask a question, and we'll be hosting our Q&A at the end of the webinar, but organizing our questions throughout. Now, before I hand things over to John, I would like to start us off with a quick poll. So I'm going to start it right now. And the question is, how familiar are you with AI and RPA technologies? So not at all, a bit, to a considerable extent, or I'm an expert. We'll keep this open for a few seconds. Don't be shy about answering. Well, it looks like people aren't answering the poll. John, when you talk to people, how familiar are they when you have your first conversation with them about AI and RPA technologies?
Typically, people have heard about AI and RPA technologies and are fairly curious about it. Comparatively few have any direct experience of them, but a lot of people have heard about it and are very curious.
That's fantastic. And we've had a couple answers come in. People seem to agree either a little or to a considerable extent is what they're familiar with. All right. Now that we've gotten that over, John, I'm going to turn things over to you. And you'll be able to introduce today's content.
Great. Thank you, Sean. As Sean said, my name is John Masters. I run marketing here at Avenir Digital. And to introduce Avenir Digital to you all, we are a solutions provider. We've been in business for in excess of 10 years. We operate in the UK, in the US, in the Middle East, and India. And our speciality is providing solutions for digital transformation using digital technologies. My role today is to kind of set the scene and background for the solution we'll be describing in detail later on, basically answering the questions: why is there a critical need for this kind of solution? How are digital technologies perfectly positioned to provide a solution and help? And further, what customer needs dictate the precise form the solution should take? And if we could move to the next slide. To take retail banking in particular, I think it's fair to say that the COVID pandemic has made a bad situation for them even worse. I mean, before COVID, the sector was already under siege from multiple directions. There was increased compliance requirements in the area of know your customer, and there was a move to an always-on 24/7, 365 business customer service model. More and more competitors emerging from non-traditional areas to offer financial services to traditional banking customers, fintechs, retailers, tech giants, prominent amongst them. And then along came COVID, and its stay-at-home mandate radically increased the demand for online access to information and services from banks. This in turn placed a lot of added pressure on call centers, and many retail bank call centers are buckling or have buckled under the strain. Customer satisfaction, as a result, is plummeting, and the competitor sharks are circling in the water, ready to attract the disaffected customers. Various solutions have been tried, one being to recruit more call center agents, but this is a fairly slow method of scaling up to train and recruit the people, and really only treats the symptoms of the malaise rather than the cause. The only genuine opportunity is to change the retail banking business model. And this is a typical story we encounter in other sectors in digital transformation, using digital technologies to create a solution which moves to create a solution to the new normal. Now, before we go into the details of the solution, it's made more complex by the diverse nature of the retail banking customer base, in which there are at least two principal groups. There's the traditional banking customer base, which is more accustomed to analog processes, and the newer tech-savvy customer base who require and are happy with a purely digital banking experience. But happily, there is evidence from McKinsey surveys that if we get it right, there's a cascade effect of beneficial consequences which will flow from this, showing that happy customers will buy significantly more banking products. And if you do redesign and streamline customer experiences, this will in turn radically increase customer satisfaction. So next slide then. So if digital technology is to provide salvation in the form of increased customer satisfaction, it needs obviously to work with whatever technology is already in place. So let's look at what we typically find. At the heart of things typically is a core banking CRM system. There are many of them, and our solution works with them all. But the one we'll be concentrating on is the popular Transact platform from Temenos, because this is the platform we developed a solution for a banking customer originally. Further to that, conversational AI in the form of chatbots has been around for a while now in retail banking, and a lot of retail banks use them in the front office to generate a more pleasant and consistent customer experience. Another digital technology, RPA, or robotic process automation, to give it its name in full, is also commonly used to automate repetitive, data-heavy processes across systems in the banking back office. But if we are to address key customer journeys, they typically span all of the areas of a bank, front, middle, and back office, meaning that the existing silos of automation that have been put in place in these various locations need to be linked together to form a single, seamless, end-to-end system. Now, the technology analyst Gartner is aware of this trend and has identified this linking process of existing automation silos as a key aspect of digital transformation in retail banks. And it coined the term hyper-automation to describe it. They also predict, very interestingly, that integrated solutions linking conversational AI and RPA is now a major focus for digital transformation now and for the foreseeable future. So moving towards the specific on the next slide, let's look at a specific customer journey, the one that we produced a solution for a banking customer. And one of the most pressing and urgent ones for a lot of banking customers is loan or mortgage application and approval. And typically, and in the bank that we developed the solution for, this solution has been based around paper documents. It involved multiple manual interactions and for approvals processes, and it was extremely slow in terms of elapsed time, typically 15 days from the original application until notification, which of course erodes customer satisfaction and misses potential frauds in process. But it's now my pleasure to hand over to my colleague, solutions architect Deepti Chugh, who will talk through the precise details of our hyper-automation end-to-end loan mortgage application solution. Over to you, Deepti.
Thanks, John. Hi, everyone. This is Deepti, and I'm very happy to be here today sharing my experience in digital transformation journey for one of our key clients. In our course of discussion with various banks, we have observed that at least two basic type of customer base are there. One is the traditional customer that is willing to go digital to some extent, but not yet ready to embrace sharing of personal information through a virtual agent. Whereas, on the other hand, there is an entire generation of millennial or tech savvy customers who are looking for faster resolution with the ease of use. So, when we design banking solutions at Evinair, we keep both these customers in mind and design our solutions around their needs. For traditional customers, we retain the reassuring familiar forms but digitalize the application forms and other time consuming documentation using technologies like Adobe or any other such PDF designers. These save time by making the form digital and providing inbuilt validations and drop down fields. And it also includes features like QR enablement for secure data transfer. These forms can be shared via email or printed and submitted in person at the branch as per the client's wishes. When we use RPA and machine learning or artificial intelligence based process automation for backend activities and decision making, we use secure RPA platforms, giving user the comfort, but at the same time helping reduce the processing time for the banks. Customers get us better service as the processing time is much lower now and is more efficient and less prone to the errors. When it comes to tech savvy customers, we make use of conversational AI based virtual agents or chatbot as they are commonly known to gather required information in the form of data which is collected and then processed. As we know, this approach works best when it comes to the digitally aware customers. These conversations are secure, data encrypted, they provide omni-channel experience for the users, and they integrate seamlessly with automation tools like RPA for complete end-to-end automation experience of hyperautomation. I will walk you through now the process flow that we used for the client. For the traditional customers, if you can see here, the flow talks about how the entire journey for the customer was. The customers' forms were designed on a PDF designer, which were accessible by the clients through the bank website. The client fills up the form, submits the form either through email or submits at the bank as per his requirement. The chatbot collects the information, the bot collects the information from this form and then processes that information. RPA is able to now check the credit history, make the required validation checks that are in the system. The workflow processes are already set. The approval processes are already set and included in the flow, as a result of which the processing time gets much lower. The anomalies are flagged, and predictive analysis has also helped us achieve using machine learning for fraud detection at early stages itself. When the process is completed, the client is given the approval or the rejection is there. Either cases, the client gets the notification within a matter of seconds. And when it comes to the data that is collected from the information that is given by the client, the data is processed and saved in the bank CRM system also, Temenos in our case, as you can see here, which saves the time for the bank to going to multiple systems and updating the records and making the client information visible as usable. When it comes to digital solutions for the digital savvy clients, we suggested the client to go ahead with the chatbot solutions. In these solutions, instead of the digital form, the client is giving the information through a conversation. The bot uses this information and processes the loan application. Once again, the bot analyzes if the customer is requiring the loan for what amount, what is his salary intake, how much loan can he be given, what will be the EMI amounts. Based on these, the bot suggests the client that how much amount can be taken as loan and what the EMI will be. As the user accepts that, the bot triggers the application process for the loan. Moving forward, we would like you to just summarize what happened here. In the original process, if you see, each and every customer in real time has a timeline. Even the customers have deadline. They need quick response because they might have a house that they are putting an offer on or a loan to fund their educational needs. Whatever be the case, quick turnaround time is the key importance for them. If you look at this original loan application process that involves manual application and human intervention for decision making, it makes the process lengthy and error to prone, as the information has to be exchanged to and fro over the email or over the postal requirements, which slows down the process. Whereas when we move on to the automated process, as we have done for our client, the information is collected by the bot, it is processed by the bot, the validations are already built in, the workflows are already built in. So the bot is able to take care of simple decisions, and the approvers are assured that the main necessary checks have been done and they are able to approve the loan much faster. In this case, we end up with a customer who's satisfied because his needs were fulfilled, the resolution was quick, the service was efficient, and it was error prone too. While we do this, I would like you to now see that we have done this demonstration. We would like you to see the video of how this solution actually works, because as you can see, you see it on the paper, but then actually seeing it in action can make a total difference. So moving on to that, I would now like you to see a small video. So what you see here in this video, the bot is starting the conversation with the client, and the client here asks about the balance in his loan, in his savings account. The bot comes back with a response, and that was pretty quick, I must say. And then the client says that he wants to apply for a loan. So the bot gives this experience to the customer where he can see different kind of loans available to him, and then he can also check his availability because he has applied for a personal loan, so he needs to know how much loan he can apply for. So bot is taking basic information like what does the customer do, where does he work, what is his take home income every month, and how much is the loan amount that he requires. Based on these inputs, the bot checks the eligibility, checks the credit score of the client, and provides him the information that how much loan tenure he can take and what will be the rate of interest. Now the bot has even calculated the EMI, so it's much easier for the client to see what will be his EMI and what loan tenure suits him the best. So the bot confirms the client requirements, the client chooses the tenure, what is required, and then the bot initiates the loan application. At this point, I would now like you to introduce you to Tim Burrows from Automation Anywhere, who will guide us through how the RPA process works here and how it's integrated and the loan application is processed. Over to you, Tim.
Okay, thank you very much, Deepti. So first and foremost, can you just confirm you can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So hi, everyone. My name is Tim Burrows. I'm a senior solutions engineer here at Automation Anywhere, and I'll be the one presenting what happens on the back end of the system. So after we gather all this information. So to do that, I'm going to start by sharing my screen. So Deepti, I think you need to stop sharing your screen for a second.
Yes.
Thank you. Now I will do mine in a second. There we go. So let's start by showing this tab. So can you see my my loan application video on the screen?
Yes, Tim.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Just to confirm, so I'm just going to put this on full screen and walk you through what we have in here. So to start out, what we have is just physical representation of what we're going to do on the back office. So in this case, we do have a number of steps. This is just a nice way to aggregate what's happening. And as you can see, I'm hovering around here just to show this is the steps that we're going to do. Although each step can contain several actions that we're actually going to do. We can even click on a specific action, see what sort of properties do we have in there, what exactly is it doing. But what we want to do is actually run the bot to show you how it actually all works out. So by pressing run, again, this would be automated. There would be a trigger. We would be listening to a sort of API call or a folder or something along those lines. And pretty much in here, I do have an X on my screen at the moment. Oh, it seems that somehow Zoom decided not to share my screen. So can you guys still hear me? I'm not sure if it's my internet that perhaps went a little bit slower.
Tim, we can hear you. Maybe
okay.
Maybe try and resetting the video.
Yeah, just reset it. And let's just skip ahead where it started. Okay, let's try this again. So it will deploy anything that needs to the in this case, it was my laptop. It could be anywhere in terms of machine. So what we're doing in here is first and foremost, just confirming a couple of details from what was provided on the chat box. So we're just confirming that the company really exists and extracting some information. The second step is going to a CRM, in this case, a web browsed CRM that we can access through the browser, and filling up some information. You see that some of these fields are actually being very quickly typed in, basically copy-paste, and some of them are mimicking human interaction. This is because some of these fields might require sort of typing in rather than copy-paste. And this second part was basically showing how we can access sort of legacy systems or systems that are not accessible via a browser that requires some sort of other requirements to actually send the information in. And at the end, we saw, oops, it was a little bit quick, but just kind of running up a little bit behind. What we saw was basically a confirmation to the user. And I do apologize that it's my internet perhaps is a little bit slow. But we see at the end, let me try to see it again. At the end, that the user immediately gets an email saying that here's the mortgage loan that you've had or mortgage application. We present with a little bit of information what happened, and as well as a PDF. We could provide with any sort of information in here, but pretty much shows how it happens very quickly. So some of the steps I slow down just to show what happens. This could be done very, very quickly without even taking more than a couple of seconds, but this is just for you to see what happens. Now, my next step is to actually show you how to create a simple bot in here. So what we're going to do is there was several steps in there. So I'm going to share another tab. And on this tab, I will show you how to create actually a bot. So this will be done live. And what we're going to mimic is actually how to create that bot that goes into, for example, a website is going to try to find the Avenir Digital on the government website of the UK, and pretty much extract that information and then just display it on the user. Now, what I'm going to do is actually, I need to share my whole screen. I'm sharing just the tab, but let me just share my whole screen because it's much easier that way. Let's just do this very, very quickly. Okay, now we are good to go. So to start out, once I'm on the control room, what I need to do is just to create a quick bot and show you how to do this. So first of all, I just need to name what the bot is going to do, or just give it a name. In this case, I want to get info from website, and pretty much click create and edit. Now, we do have several levels of granularity in terms of how you create a robot. And pretty much I'm just going to start by showing how you can, for example, go into the library of actions that we have and create a specific action and fill out the details, or how to actually tell the robot to look at our actions and then actually copy those actions and then create the flow for us, how it would actually interact. So the first thing I want to do is just open a browser. If I type in anything in here, in this case, I type open, it will show every single action that I have. And you'll see that I have the action on the browser called open, which is what we want to do. And I can drag and drop here to put the action called open. So what I want to do is basically say, I want to open a new window on Google Chrome. I want specifically to open the find and update company information of the gov.uk website. So I'm just going to copy this, go back to my tab, put this information in here, and click Save. So to test this out, just to make sure that this is working fine, I can pretty much click Run. This will deploy any sort of extra information on the agent that I have installed on my laptop. And once it's running, it just confirms, and here we go. We have it that it opened the website, and it's perfect. Now, moving on to the next step, I could now go and edit, for example, any sort of information in here. So what I want to do is basically type in Avenir Digital, click search. I want to click the first result that we have. We could, of course, extract all this information, do more checks. Pretty much I just want to do this. And I have a plethora of information in here. I do have some tabs. So let's just say that I want to extract this information in here, this record of where it's actually registered. So to do that, first of all, I'm going to just close this area. And I have a way to mimic my actions by start recording. So we do have the facilities to actually watch a user do specific actions on either the whole desktop or in this case a browser. So what I'm going to do is actually select what I want my recorder to actually observe. In this case is the company's house on Google Chrome. I'm going to type in, select the universal recorder. And from this point onwards, it's going to listen or basically observe what I do. So right now it's just telling that it's waiting for any sort of inputs. And the moment I click in the, or sorry, not even click, the moment I actually browse around, you'll notice that it will actually highlight the areas that I'm selecting. So you'll see that it will just show where I'm selecting. So in this case, I want to click in here. And you'll see that it will record this action in here. So now I can actually type in Avenir Digital. And let's say that I made a typo and we'll recreate this. And then finally, I want to search. So what this is going to do is basically copy all this information. It will wait for the page to load. Now I can click on the first interaction. And it will wait for the page to load. And then finally, I want to click on this area to basically say, I want this information, and click Finish, and pretty much gather all these steps that I just created. So once I click Finish, all the steps that I just done, they're all in here. So I can go one by one and observe if we do have something that is perhaps incorrect. So I can see in here, seems to be okay. It's clicking in here, it's putting some some information in here. It's actually typing down that information, and we'll see that in a bit. And basically getting this information in here, which I will address in a second. But let's just see how the bot interacts at this stage. So if I click Run, you'll see that it will deploy the bot or the agent. We'll open the browser in a second, and it will try to put that information there. Oh, apparently there's a little typo, and this is actually a very interesting thing to do. So let's just stop for a second, close the browser, stop the bot, and I already know what's wrong in here. It's at the very, very first step. This is probably due because I'm sharing my screen and it got a little bit confused. What we can do in here is when we actually have a wrong step in here, we can either record the whole session, but because I already know this is the one that is failing, I can come in here and actually say, I want to recapture my object. So if I go back to this website in here and go back a couple of steps, go back to this page in here, I'm going to select recapture object, basically what I wanted to do initially, and basically click in here. Now I see the highlighted area is correct, so I'm going to click in here, and it's pretty much done. It's just making sure that it captured the essential data, and now it's actually saying that it captured in here, so we should be good to go. So I'll save, run the bot again. Let me just check. Okay, I need to click in here. Forgot to specify that. Let's run again. And what should happen now is actually going through the steps that I've done before, opening the browser, typing in the name of Avenir Digital, including if I had a typo, so mimicking that human interaction, clicking on the first row, and basically getting this information in here. Now for the last step, again, what we want to do very quickly is just to get this information in here, store it in memory, and perhaps feed this to another system. It could be a CRM, it could be pretty much anything that we want, but to keep things simple, what I'm going to do is go back to my bot, which has run successfully. I'm just going to place this in a variable storage. I just want to really store this in memory so that I can use it later on or pass it to another system. So I'm just going to call it address. I'm going to create. And for my last action, what I want to do is actually put a message box. Again, this is more of a visual tool, and it's actually good for when you're starting out. But what I'm going to do is go all the way to the end of my bot, drag and drop the message box, fill out the information in here. And in this case, what I want to do is just saying that the address captured was colon, and then I want to put that variable that I created, that information that we captured in memory. So I just need to put that variable that I just created. In this case, it's called address, insert. And on the last step, because I've just clicked on it, because it helps me gather that information, I don't want to click on it. What I actually want to is actually get the property. Now this goes a little bit into more details what we want to do. We can actually observe all the object properties, not only the ones that we saw. I know already which one do I want, which is exactly this. I can actually copy paste this. Let's try to copy and then put it here as the property name. And then finally choose what I've just, what property I got, which is the HTML inner text. Where should it be residing, that information, which is the address variable, and I can save. So if I run this one more time, the end result will be what we saw so far. So basically being deployed, running a couple of actions, typing in as if it was a human, as you can see. I could actually make this as just a copy-paste event, then clicking on the first one, getting this information, and finally putting this as a message from the bot. We can configure this, but again, this just gives an idea what you can do with RPA on the back office programs, such as moving this information, doing repetitive tasks, or basically anything that requires a little bit more what's called effort, or basic repetitive effort. We can be here to alleviate that effort for you. All right, that's pretty much my part in here. So I'm going to stop sharing and pass it over to John.
Yeah, Dixie, if we can have you share your screen again for the slides, it'd be great.
Yes, John, I am ready.
And John, before we go on to the next, I wanted to share one more poll for the audience that should hopefully get a little bit of conversation going. And that is, for all of you, when do you plan on deploying AI or RPA solutions in your organization? Either we have these solutions in place within 6 months, 6 to 12 months, more than a year, or if candidly you have no plans. So really, really curious to see what people say. But again, John, I ask, is this something you see often? What do you see people usually saying? Do they have various solutions in place, or is this, more than a year out type of thing?
It depends on the business unit, Sean. There are some business units in most large organizations that are quite well advanced, are typically the kind of beachhead of the new technology. And I think the other business units are watching with interest to see if there's some best practice they can learn from them before they go ahead and deploy it. But yeah, across most large organizations, I think RPA has now been established maybe for a year or two, and people are now getting more ambitious about how they employ it and then diversifying inside other business units and other functions.
Great. And just looking at our respondents, it's about 50-50 between we've got it and we have no plans to do it. And then a few more votes coming in. About 33% say, second half of the year. So that's really interesting. All right. I'm going to end that poll. And John, back over to you.
Yeah, thanks very much. And also, just to make a point with Tim as well, RPA now has been around for a couple of years and it's maturing as a marketplace. A beneficial consequence of that fact is that these digital co-workers or bots which have been developed are now rather like an army of real employees. They are available for hire. Some of these bots actually have their own resumes or CVs. So the benefit is that if you wish to get a bot for a commonly performed function, the likelihood is that they're out there somewhere. And people like Automation Anywhere will make available to you a list of these bots that you can then download and use, or maybe just use as a template and customize. So there is a wide spectrum here. As you've seen from Tim, it's very, very easy to use, which means that people with no other computer expertise than using a mouse or a keyboard can build their own bots very, very rapidly and deploy them. Alternatively, we can develop them for you, or other people develop them for you. It's a wide spectrum of needs. What tends to be most key in organizations is having a center of excellence, which acts to set guidelines and disseminate best practice for the development of bots inside the organization. So in most organizations who are embarking on RPA, the center of excellence is one of the key building blocks that's put in place, first of all. But to progress specifically about this particular solution, the measures, the success measures we found about it are really quite striking. The most striking single benefit of this automated system is the speed. It is 180 times faster live operating with the bank for which we developed it than the previous solution which it replaced. Typically, with the old manual process, it took them about 15 days from the time that an application was made until a decision was supplied. And with the new integrated end-to-end solution, it typically takes about 2 hours, which if you are out there sweating on whether you can make your bid and have it accepted for a new property, is obviously sometimes the difference between securing that property and not getting it at all. And as we said earlier on, customer satisfaction is greatly improved when these key journeys, like the one we've just described, are improved, typically by around 20%. And if you improve customer satisfaction, you keep the customer, and the customer rendered themselves much more likely to be cross-selling into other products and to have other services as well sold to them. So all good news from the bank's point of view. If we move on then, in summary, we would say that from all the perspectives we've looked at, this is good news. From a technology perspective, you've made the most of your existing investments. You've linked together these silos or islands of existing automation. You have minimized manual intervention, people turning from one screen to another to add information, and also you've maybe reduced the propensity for making expensive errors, and also the compliance issues that might result from that, with more frauds being detected and eliminated. When you automate processes, as we can all attest, you can then find sub-processes that basically make no sense and streamline them or maybe delete them completely as doing so. But the most overriding speed factor there is the one we pointed out, 180 times faster. From the customer, it's very easy. If you are one of these tech-savvy, digital insisting people, then you can now access the whole thing via a smart device. You can get rapid decisions, meaning you can get access to what it is that you want to buy, and your experience and satisfaction will improve. And from a corporate perspective, for a retail bank, it's clearly extremely good because customer retention and the ability to sell more products to customers increases rapidly. And because you catch more potential frauds and you do better KYC as a result of what we're doing, you have much better compliance, and the result of that is fewer fines. So last slide from me. So on behalf of myself and my fellow presenters, thank you very much for your time and interest. Should you wish to have any more information about anything we've discussed today, our contact details are on the screen there. But back now to Sean, and hopefully there are some questions we need to answer.
Yeah, we do have actually 3 or 4 have come in already. So just a reminder for everyone, if you want to continue to submit questions, please do so via the question box on your control panel. It should be on the right. But we'll kick it off with the first one, and I think this is actually a really crucial one. Is this a one-size-fits-all solution, or can it be customized to someone's individual requirements?
Thanks, Sean. So as the question is very interesting indeed. So we definitely would say that it can be customized as per your requirement. there is nothing called one size fits all when it comes to automation. Every company has different need. They might have already some automations in place. They might be looking to just integrate better with those automations, or there might be somebody who has not started at all. So depending on the customer requirements, we do have workshops with them. We understand what their business needs are, and based on that, we suggest customized solutions. But at the same time, there might be things which are already in place. Out of box solutions are already there. We have some out of the box solutions available. If that is what you need, the quick deployment is possible with very few customizations. So we can decide on that when we have discussions with client.
That's fantastic. And I think just to follow, a second question comes, I think, directly out of the demo, which is we don't use Temenos Transact. Does this solution work with other banking CRMs? So John, Deepti, is there anything you can give the asker there?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we just had to start somewhere. It happened to be the customer in the Middle East we worked with on this one had Temenos Transact, and it also happens to be a fairly popular system. But essentially, there is nothing unique about that as a banking CRM system, and the solution will work equally well interacting with any of the banking CRM systems.
Great. I think this next one may be for Tim, actually. Tim, this viewer says, we're moving all of our systems onto the cloud. Is this available as a cloud native solution? And can we start doing that right away?
Yes, that's correct. So we are a cloud native solution, so we are more than happy to support you on that journey.
Fantastic. Yeah, the Automation 360 platform is the largest cloud native platform in the world, actually, as per a recent release of information. So fantastic question, and we really appreciate it. How long does something like this take to implement, John?
Yeah, obviously it depends on the precise sophistication of what we find in place. But Deepti, I think in the case of this particular customer, how long did it take us to develop this solution in place for the customer we developed for originally?
So this solution, John, because they already had Temenos T24 in place, so it took us about 12 weeks to develop the solution and deliver it to them.
And that, in my experience, is fairly common for these digital transformation type solutions. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. And especially because you see the bot that we used here is something which is available out of the box with some basic tweaking and customization. So the delivery times are much faster. And as the earlier question pointed out on cloud deployments, so we also are available for cloud deployments and on-premise deployments, as a result of which when the systems are already available, the cloud is set up, the things obviously move much more faster. If it is required to set up cloud from scratch, then that also is available. So I would say implementation time will entirely depend on the client's current status, the current infrastructure that they have, and the requirements that they have. So based on the workshops that we do, we'll be able to suggest better timelines.
Great. A couple more have come in. So how does the fraud or something like fraud detection take place in the use case?
So in the use case, as you see, when the loan application comes in, the customer's background information is checked through CIBIL scores, and based on those information, we do have some processes. We implant some workflows where we check the other predictive analysis, like social analysis. We can do checks like if the person has put in some claims in the past or has some loan default in the past. If those loan defaults were there, how often they were. Based on all these, the machine learning model can predict if the customer is likely to do a fraud in future, or if the customer is likely to be a defaulting customer in future. Currently, due to COVID situation, we do understand that a lot of people are facing issues with their payment EMIs. So the machine learning model will be able to analyze exactly, is this something that the customer has done because of this situation, or is it something that he has done in past also when these parameters were not there. So based on those predictive analysis, we'll be able to take a better decision on how the customer might behave.
That's great. And one more, and I think I'm going to try and capture the essence of the question. how does this fit from a customer perspective rather than a business perspective? The questions, what about a one size fits all from a customer rather than a business perspective?
Well, I think
yeah, John, go ahead.
I'll take it first. So we've already said that there are at least two types of customers: those who prefer the reassurance of familiar forms, albeit as PDFs or something more electronic, and those who prefer a purely digital experience. So the interface is the interface that people prefer and the way of accessing it. But in both cases, what they experience is a much greater rapid solution and resolution of their application, which matches real world speedy requirements, because people are usually out there in competitive situations wanting to buy something. So the customer situation is dependent on the customer needs, but the major customer requirement we perceive is speed of decision.
Great. That's everything we've had come in. John, Deepti, Tim, I think this was a really fantastic way of describing automation and intelligent automation and RPA, not just in business or back office terms, but in terms where you can actually see how it interacts with users and customers in the real world. And I think when we think about the future of intelligent automation, it's really going to take off when everyone understands how it works in real life. So I really appreciate you joining today and giving this overview. Thank you so much.
Thanks, John. Pleasure is ours.
And thanks to everyone who stuck with us. We apologize again for the technical difficulties at the top end of the call, but we're glad we were able to get through it. If you have any questions, please reach out to John and Deepti via the information on the screen. And we look forward to seeing you soon. Have a great day.